All right, this is Mr. Ghere back with you, and today I'm going to go over the worksheet that I signed to you. Again, hope you're enjoying your time off and staying safe, staying healthy. So here are the answers to the Guided Learning Solve with Square Roots worksheet. This is the first worksheet on solving square roots. So number 1 through 5, again, is just to evaluate. It's calculator work. Number 1 is 9, number 2 is 10, number 3 is not a perfect square, so we get a decimal answer, 6.71, and number 4 was 4.90, and number 5 was 17.32. When you evaluate or you simplify, you get one answer. Okay, now when we solve the rest of these, 6 through 17, when we do these, we're going to get two answers, because again, it's a quadratic, so when you square a number, a positive number, you get a positive. When you square a negative number, you also get a positive. So let's go through these fairly quickly. If you get stuck on one, you can always rewind the video and go back to and watch me do another one. So I'll go through these again fairly quickly because there's a lot of them, and I know you don't want to listen to me talk for very long, just like when we're in the classroom. So on number 6, we're going to take the square root of both sides, and when we take the square root of both sides, we get x equals square root of 36 is 6, but we're going to need plus or minus 6. Same thing on number 7, we're going to take the square root of 49, and we're going to get x equals plus or minus 7, because 7 squared is 49, and negative 7 squared is also 49. Number 8, not a perfect square, so we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we're going to get x equals plus or minus. Again, you could write it as 2 root 7, probably what you're going to do next year, but again, I didn't know how many of you had graphing calculators at home, so I'm trying to make it as user-friendly as we can. So the square root of 28 as a decimal is 5.29, so x equals plus or minus 5.29. Number 9, 2 steps, we're going to have to add 7 first of all, and when we do that, we're going to get x squared equals 18. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we're going to get x equals plus or minus. And again, you could have 3 root 2, or if we use the decimal, like I said, square root of 18 is 4.24. So our answer is positive 4.24 and negative 4.24. Okay. Number 10, we're going to add 20 to both sides. And when we do, we're going to get x squared equals 20. Take the square root of both sides now, and I'm going to get x equals plus or minus 2 root 5 in simplest radical form, or as a radical, the square root of 20 is 4.47. So I'm doing these right along as I go here, positive and negative. 11, 3 steps. First step is going to be to add 8. All right, that's going to give me 3x squared equals 27. Okay, divide both sides by 3. X squared equals 9. That's nice. We get a nice perfect square. Take the square root of both sides, and we're going to get plus or minus 3. Remember, 2 answers. All right, number 12. I'll move the page up a little bit. All right, so if we look at number 12, again, 3 steps. We're going to add 2. That's going to give me 7x squared equals 28. Divide by 7. X squared is going to equal 4. Again, it's nice when we get a perfect square. Square root of both sides, we get plus or minus 2. You can plug that back in to see if it works. And both answers will. 13, we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. That gives us 5x squared equals 90. Divide both sides by 5. X squared equals 90 divided by 5 is 18. Take the square root of both sides now. You're going to get x equals plus or minus, and the square root of 18, type it out. I thought I had done it somewhere on the page. I haven't. 4.24. So plus or minus 4.24 are my answers there. Number 14, we're going to add 12 to both sides because, again, we want to get the x by itself. That's going to give us 3x squared equals 60. Divide both sides by 3. X squared equals 20. Take the square root of both sides, and I'm going to get x equals plus or minus square root of 20. Find my button on my calculator. 4.47. So positive 4.47 and negative 4.47 are my 2 answers. Okay, the last 3. The last 3 are the most challenging one, again, because of the parentheses. You do not want to FOIL these out. It gives you a headache of a mess. So we want to stick with what I showed you on the practice. All right, so we're going to take the square root of both sides because we have to unlock that parenthesis. So when I take the square to the left side, the square and the square root cancel each other out. and I'm left with x minus 4. The right side, square root of 9 is 3, and remember, since we're solving equations, we need a plus or minus 3 there. Break this up into two different equations. X minus 4 equals 3, and x minus 4 equals negative 3. Okay, add 4, I'm going to get x equals 7. That's one answer. Add 4 over here, I'm going to get x equals 1. Two answers, 7 and 1. Again, numbers 9 through 14, or actually 6 through 14, all had two answers that were opposites of one another. As soon as you have that parenthesis squared, you're going to have two answers, but they're no longer going to be opposites of one another. Okay, same thing on 16. We're going to take the square root of both sides. That gives us x plus 7 equals plus or minus 6. I break that into two equations. X plus 7 equals 6, and x plus 7 equals negative 6. Subtract 7 here. I get x equals negative 1. Subtract 7, and I get x equals negative 13. So we finally get one that's got two answers, both being negative. So again, like I said on the notes, there are two answers. One doesn't have to be positive, one doesn't have to be negative. They could both be positive, they could both be negative, or you could have one of each. It just depends on the particular problem. All right, number 17. This one's not going to be as nice because when we take the square root of 28, it is not a perfect square. So I take the square root of both sides, and I have x minus 4 equals plus or minus. The square root of 28 is 5.29. So I'm going to break that up into two things. X minus 4 equals 5.29, and x minus 4 equals negative 5.29. Add 4 on this one, and I get x equals 9.29. That's one answer. Over here, when I add 4, I'm going to get x equals negative 1.29. So not very nice answers, but they're both correct. 9.29 and negative 1.29. So that is how you solve equations with square roots to start with. Okay, so the backside was review. Let me throw that in here. This was from our last unit. Again, some of you will be taking some tests here later on down the line. But if we look at this, the vertex of this graph was negative 2, negative 1. The domain, like the domain always is, goes from negative infinity to infinity. The range, the lowest y value we have is negative 1 up to infinity. Hard bracket on the negative 1 because it's included in the interval. It is decreasing from negative infinity to negative 2. It is increasing from negative 2 to infinity. The axis of symmetry is the line x equals negative 2. There is a y-intercept at 0, 3. There are two x-intercepts, one of them at negative 1, 0, and the other one at negative 3, 0. So to find factored form on number 29, you take the opposites of those x-intercepts. Those are your factors, y equals x plus 1 and x plus 3. Vertex form, we need a parenthesis squared. Since we went left 2, we need x plus 2 in the parenthesis squared with a minus 1 at the end. Standard form, I went ahead and FOILed out factored form. I got x squared plus 4x plus 3. And then the leading coefficient of standard form is the number in front of the x squared, which is a 1. Okay, so those are the solutions to the first worksheet. Again, if you have any questions, my phone number is on the email. You can always call me or text me, all right? Or you can email me, and we get back together and talk about some of this, okay? So this is our second video. We're going to do a little bit more with these on another sheet of notes that I have ready for you. So on down the page, if you click on the link, and you can move forward. So instead of having a quiz over these things like we normally would in class, we're going to have an assessment with a slideshow that you're going to show me that you know how to do these. So again, have a great day. Thanks.